it works.
Hey, I can hear you.
Oh, wrong camera. Hold on. Let's see. I think that's better.
Cool.
All right, so I was angry because the headset that I have, which is actually this one, this is the one I usually use, the battery died on, so it's like wireless. And like, what? I'm gonna have to use this shitty Apple headphones. But can you hear me fine?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
All right, that's awesome. I'm really excited about this, by the way.
Yeah.
Really, really excited. Programmer versus artist. This is gonna be very, very interesting. Now let me do just a quick check on OBS to see if the Google Hangouts window works okay. And if the dimensions are the right one for the window, and the resolution. Okay, it looks fine. So I already started streaming. I have like a intro scene kind of thing. And if you want, like open up a tab on your extra monitor or something, just to go to the stream, twitch.tv/AbnerCoimbre. Just because maybe halfway through the stream, I'm going to be showing like a video, real quick video clip.
Yeah.
And you might.
By the way, I think they're saying your audio is on the stream.
Dang it! All right.
But yeah, that's fine. I've got it opened up on one of the monitors. Yeah, I got this. Yeah, I have not as much recently, but yeah, I need to get back into it. Oh, God, you love that stuff. Okay, I'm gonna get some, fill up my jar of water. All right. Yep. Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, getting a taste of my own medicine. That's kind of nice because I don't have to have OBS open. So, yeah. Sure.
Testing, seeing if the stream, if the chat can listen to my voice. I'm hoping that's the case because it's 5:01 and the stream needs to begin. It has to start. Let's see what people are saying. James, your audio sounds good. All right. Brett Hudson, we can hear Abner. All right, I'm not sure you want to hear Abner today. You want to hear somebody else. But nonetheless, it is Abner time indeed. And you know, what can Abner time be without some good chocolate wine? So I'm going to start pouring that glass on a nice Saturday evening or late afternoon or morning or night. I have viewers from Europe and other parts of the planet. So here we go. Cheers real quick. Quick cheers. Let me go ahead and tweet. We are beginning the stream. We are 2 minutes too late. Here we go. All right. Perfect. There you go. And I'm gonna cycle the recording and then we'll start streaming. Pew, 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 pew. Pew. Okay. There we go. Start recording. Hello, Internet. Welcome to yet another interview stream, interview programming stream by yours truly, Abner Coimbre. I hope you guys are excited because each Saturday I always get a different guest or try to get a different guest to talk to, but I am particularly excited to talk to the guest I have today. I even wanted to like try my Logitech wireless headphones, but the battery died on it, so I have to use crappy Apple headphones for this hopefully insightful interview. We're talking about somebody that I've been following his work for a long time. And all right, enough about me. Let's see if I can get OBS to show this person. And if not, we are screwed. Let's see if we can get him up on the window. Bam, that's one. Bam, that's another icon. Here's another icon. Here's another icon. All right, they're popping up. They are popping up one by one. Damn. All right, that looks good. We're missing one very important part here, though. Let me go to Properties and see if I can show my special guest today. There he is. All right. Wait, I can't hear him though. Let me unmute myself here. William?
Hi.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
All right. That's awesome. I got scared for a few seconds there. All right. Let me press OK here. Wait, I think I'm gone. Hold on. Edit scene. It's a good thing this is a live stream and not like a. All right. For some reason, the window. If I go to properties here, check the sub-region, do 40 so I can remove that link. I don't want people joining in randomly. And then let's make this window tinier. A little bit tinier. Bam. All right, there's some black space in between, but whatever. That'll do. It's good enough. It looks pretty good to me. All right. Oh, I can minimize. Oh, that's why I need to have the Hangouts window active. So I'm gonna move it over here. And we're ready. All right, so how are you doing, William?
Doing well, yeah. It's Saturday.
It's Saturday. Yeah, other than preparing the stream, I've done nothing productive. So, now, so the way this is gonna go, William, and like I said earlier, I'm really excited to talk to you for a number of different reasons. We're gonna talk about your life, how how you've made it to where you are today. Then we can talk about myself if you want, if you have any questions for me. And then on the second half of this stream, we're going to talk about some interesting things that I think the community wants to hear about, which is like game engines, programming, the role of a game designer like yourself, who was previously an artist, using these engines for his day-to-day activities and for his projects. So really interesting stuff. And I have my wine ready, so I am ready to listen to you, man. So why don't you go ahead and tell the people in the chat. We have some viewers that are not particularly gamers or not particularly into the art scene because they're like people from NASA, Kennedy Space Center and things like that. So why don't you go ahead and take us back in the timeline when you were young and how you made it from, being just a kid to this, really well-known to me, really well-known artist and game designer. How does the timeline go? How do you get from, from the past to the present? Give me a story.
Magic.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Let's see. I actually was a physics major in college, and that was. And let me know how the audio is.
Yeah, please chat. Please go ahead and tell us how we sound. Brett Hudson, Black Magic. I don't think it's magic. But he did say physics, and to some, physics does seem like magic, even though that's extremely contradictory. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I studied physics in college, and I remember that was sort of motivated. Like in high school, I worked at a summer camp, and we would go. There was always one trip to the Science Museum in Toronto, and I remember being really fascinated by the books in kind of the books that they had in the gift shop that were like physics books for laymen.
I see. Okay.
And so when I went away to college, physics seemed like the most interesting thing, but what happened was, towards the end, I kind of realized, while I liked physics, I wasn't as interested in it as some of the other people. I remember my roommate was a math major, and he's gone on to get a math PhD and is now teaching math at some university. And he would wake up and read graduate level math textbooks for fun. And I was like, I've never done that with a physics book before.
I see.
Right? Like the people, if you want to become a professional physicist, the people around you are people that will like wake up in the morning and just like read physics for fun on an off day.
Yes.
So and I was like, yeah, maybe I could be a good physicist, but I don't think I'd ever be like a great one,
I hear you.
But at the same time, I had been involved in. I was involved in a circus in school. I was actually a juggler, and
going from physics to the circus, I'm already infinitely more interested.
It's actually like not that big of a gap. Like maybe physics and circus, but math and juggling is actually very.
Fair.
Like it's kind of weird because within the math engineering population, there's a higher proportion of jugglers than the general population. And same as like within the juggler population, there's a higher proportion of math and engineering people. I don't know why that is. But there is, and there's actually like there's a book called The Mathematics of Juggling, because there's like you can think of juggling as a problem of like a permutation problem, right? You have two hands and you have a certain number of objects, and each of those objects need to pass through at least one of those hands at some point. And so you can like set up patterns.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I see Suave Zombie talks about in his chat, like they have a juggling club at his university, and it's headed by a math professor. And,
That's true.
At the UFC, it was all like physics. There was like a physics grad student. Yeah, it was sort of like I don't know why that juggling and math thing is Maybe
Yeah.
it's just because it's like a sport that's not super physical. It's like not a contact sport, but
Yeah,
it's
like
cool.
there was this video I saw on mathematics and tying knots or untangling knots, and
Hmm.
so that seemed more straightforward for me because I could like understand the way the loops and the nodes go into those kinds of structures. But talking about the circus, I guess I didn't really make the instant connection. But
Yeah,
now I see.
like
Now I
it was like I didn't want to join the circus. I just wanted to learn to juggle. I don't actually know if there's like I don't know if there's an intersection with knot theory to answer James' question. I don't know knot theory that well,
Knot theory.
but
Yeah.
so I just wanted to learn to juggle because I was like, I don't know, mathy kind of stuff. And what happened was then they were like, then they would perform shows, right? And one time they were like, we have two people juggling, passing knives. That's when you pass. That's like when you have two people and you throw objects in between each other. You like, one person, like every other beat, you'll throw a knife to the other person. And they were like, okay, so they had two people passing knives, and to make it more exciting, they needed a body lying beneath the knives. So they were like, hey man, do you want to be the body that's lying beneath the knives? Because I didn't actually have to do anything. And I was like, okay, sure. And I had done theater in high school, but not like super seriously. But doing that performance was a lot of fun, and it sort of got me involved more. So it was like, I just wanted to learn to juggle, and they were like,
yes,
we need a body for the show. And then I sort of got bit by the bug.
Yeah. I'm still fascinated how, okay, so you went from physics to talking about the circus. And
yeah, well, this was happening at the same time.
At the same time.
I was a college student, so
right.
in my free time I was like involved in the circus.
Okay. And how does that translate to? Well, keep going with your story. I'm really interested.
So it came, when I went to University of Chicago, and it's a really fantastic school. Fermi was here, and it's got it's a big econ in the economics field is really big, and the school is it describes itself as like very academically focused, but I think ultimately what they mean is they want to like push you to a career in academia.
Yes.
Like they just really want to make you go get a PhD. And if you don't want to do that path, there's like your options are consulting and finance. Just like those are the only groups that come for the job fairs.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I remember neither of them really clicking with me. And I was like, there's got to be more. And I was a huge fan of Cirque du Soleil at the time. And I always thought, I was like, man, there's like somebody who works at Cirque du Soleil, right? Like there's somebody whose job is to make these incredible shows.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not coming to my school to recruit. But how do I get there?
How do you get? Wow.
Yeah. And I had been doing birthday parties, balloon animals at birthday parties. So like I was involved in the circus, and I learned to twist balloon animals, make balloon animals. It's kind of like if you're majoring in juggling, you end up getting a minor in balloon twisting. Like you just go hand in hand. And often they would have shows on campus or around the city in Chicago where they'd be like, hey, we got a store opening and we want some like atmosphere entertainment. Can you provide two like two jugglers, two face painters, stuff like that. So yeah, I would do. I actually what was pretty funny was I ended up doing the birthday party for the head of the physics department. It was funny. Like I met with him, this guy Stuart Gazes, and I was like, we were talking about how I could finish my major, like which classes to take, and for Valentine's Day, at the local grocery store, I would make like these hearts with teddy bears on it. Right, and sell them with balloons.
Okay.
And they had like cards like "I can't bear to be without you" or like flowers. And
let me tell you right now that I feel like I've missed out so much. Like all I've done is programming my life, and here you are telling me like I just want food. I mean, a user called I just want food on the chat is saying it is quite the journey, for you to go from physics to the circus to game dev, right? And I totally agree because again, I'm like, what have I been doing with my life? Just programming in C or we'll get to that later. So, all right.
Yeah,
so
I actually feel like it's all come around full circle, but I guess we'll eventually make our way there. Anyway, I remember this one time. So I was at the grocery store making the Valentine's Day balloons, and I remember this one woman came up to me and paid all in change. And she was like super apologetic. She's like, "I'm sorry, but this is all I got," and she just gave me like all these quarters. And she was like, "But give me your card." And I remember then like a few months later, she called me and was like, "Hey, my daughter's having a birthday party. Can you come and do balloons?" And I was like, "Sure." And and I go up and I ring the doorbell, and it's the head of the physics department who I just met with earlier that week, and he opens the door, and it turns out that woman was his wife. And it was so funny because he was just like, we had just been talking about how I was going to finish my physics degree, and he was like, yeah, he's from New York, so he was like, William, this is what you do outside of class.
Those moments are the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that was just kind of a funny thing. He gave me a really good tip. Okay. So, but yeah, so from there, I, like in my fourth year, I decided I didn't want to do a PhD in physics. And then it didn't look like there was a lot of interesting career choices that the school was pushing on me. Mm-hmm. So I thought, you know what, I'll get my street performer's license and just do balloon animals for the summer just to see what happens. Wow. Certainly my parents were very happy that I graduated with a double major in physics and economics, and I was making balloon animals.
You're blowing my mind here. But I don't want to interrupt, so please keep it up.
Yeah, but like kind of what happened, like the venture into art was I made these like large balloon pieces when I was still a student. Like it's just really easy to get a ton of money. I mean, not money, no money, but the great thing about being in school is you don't have any money, but you've got a ton of people around you with free time.
Yeah.
So I just got like 20 of my friends, and we made these like giant balloon pieces in school. I don't know if I can. They're like on my website, sort of the works at the bottom were like the earliest, but the school, and they had like a science element to it. They were modeled after science images. Yeah. And the school took some pictures. They just look kind of nice. So the school took some pictures, put it on their website on the front page. And I remember I graduated, and 2 days later I got a call from the Museum of Science Industry in Chicago about like doing a piece for this event they were doing downtown in Millennium Park.
Wait, they called you directly?
Yeah. They were like, basically that summer they had a program called Science Chicago where they would do, basically they had like a traveling science museum that would take place every Saturday. It'd be in a different park in Chicago. And it's like, those bikes where you pedal and a light bulb comes on. It's for kids to like, so it's like a traveling science museum, and you like make those little helicopters to learn about aerodynamics. And then the final one was in Millennium Park, which is like this big park in downtown Chicago. And they're like, hey, you know what? We want something big. And I guess they just, someone from the organization saw the pictures on the school website and was like, hey, let's get this guy.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Wow. So, okay. And just so people are clear here, we're talking about your first gig being a science museum that's on wheels, basically.
Sort of. I mean, I was doing like the balloon installation stuff, but yeah, it was in the context of basically a science museum on wheels.
And okay, so I'm starting to feel like a thread that's leading to the art part of your life. Am I right?
Yeah, this is sort of like where it starts.
Okay. All right. So that's where it starts, and then how do you go from there? So you do your gig, I guess, and what happens after that?
So what happened after that was I set up this website and I put some pictures on it, and two things happened. One was I remember during my senior year of school, there was this artist on campus who had a show. Like, we got the hey Chris Bell. They like on the school science center. There's like a lobby and they'll put artworks, and what they'll do is they'll get like different artists whose work are related to science to show on campus. And I remember this one woman had her work there, and I just emailed her and was like, hey, how do I become an artist? But she just told me about these like websites where you can apply for exhibition opportunities and grants and residencies. And during the summer, they just kind of felt like essays, and I was like, well, I've been writing essays for the last 4 years. I'll just write a few more and see what happens. So two things happened. One was a friend of mine sent the images of the balloons from Millennium Park to this website based in London called It's Nice That. It's nicethat.com. They're like an art design blog that's since become really big.
Is it still live?
Yeah. It's nicethat.com.
Okay. Somebody should type that on the chat. Let me see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's nice.
It's nice that. Yeah.
I hope I wrote it correctly. Let's see.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Yeah, I'm getting tipsy, so I'm not sure. Anyway.
But they posted the work and it got like a ton of attention. I was in like Elle magazine, Mexico, and had like girls from Mexico friending me on Facebook for a while. It was really weird.
That's funny.
And then I also got into a residency program at the Bemis Center in Omaha. So like a residency, they don't really have them in the game dev scene. Although I guess that Stugun program in I think in Europe, like it's like a summer camp for indie game developers. It's sort of similar, but the way our residencies work is they'll be at an art center and you go there for like 3 months, anywhere between like 2 weeks to 6 months to a year. And the idea is they give you a small stipend and you have a studio space and you're supposed to just like check out from life and focus on your art. They're really nice. I've done like 6 since. But that I remember that being my first opportunity, like first time just hang out with, because then you're like living with other professional artists and then curators and like I never taken an art class before, but this was like my first time in just art everywhere kind of environment.
Art everywhere. And okay, so you're in that environment, and can you sort of explain the difference between you being in that space of artists versus doing all the physics work that you were doing previous to that? I'm guessing it was more exciting naturally, or?
Yeah, part of it was like with the physics, I had worked in a few labs. I guess the most significant one was a summer I spent in Italy. It's Laboratorio Nazionale di Fisica Nucleare.
Mouthful.
It's National Institute of Nuclear Physics, and it was I was in the small town outside of Padua. It was really close to Venice. It was really nice. I could go to Venice in less than an hour, and it's a linear accelerator lab. And the way those labs work is labs from Europe, like kind of Europe, North Africa, what they'll do is they'll book like about a week's time at the accelerator, and they'll come in and collect their data and then go back home to analyze. Right. So you end up having like all these traveling physicists. And I was just there for the summer working with kind of the local team doing maintenance work. So I wrote, I don't even know if I can find it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't really like a paper that was published, but
yeah. Well, while you look for it, if you can find it, I have a close friend. People call him my imaginary friend, Mark. For some reason, he is doing his PhD in physics. And he's working with CERN, but not at CERN, right? So it's a lot of virtual conferences that happens and video conferences. And it's fascinating what he's doing with like top mass particle physics. I think it's what's called. We're talking in the space of the Higgs boson, those kinds of particles, right? And the quarks and that kind of space. So his dream is like to sort of go directly to CERN and work there, obviously. So you're saying that you went to that laboratorio, blah 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 Italiano, and you were there in person, and you got to see these traveling physicists just do their work and come there, and you could like sort of absorb all of that information, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are like, yeah. So I was there on site, like I was just living in the lab.
You were on campus. Yeah.
But it's really hard to know. They're like such massive projects with so many people involved. Like all I did was I wrote a piece of software that controlled these motors for a door in one section of the piece to monitor it. You know, like I wrote this program to monitor these doors, and I had no idea what that was for outside of monitoring, like letting you know that the door was closed and it was open.
I hear you.
And yeah, it's just sort of like really large
facility.
Yeah, they're like massive organizations. I don't. Yeah. I'm not sure I can find the paper anymore, but
can't find it. Oh my god, no.
Oh no! Wait! Never mind. I did. Hold on.
Woo! That's awesome. All right. Yeah. So I'm sure the wonderful people in the chat, maybe except insofar as is my moderator, everybody's gonna enjoy that link if you send that over.
Yeah, I might just have to upload it. I'll give you 1 second. But yeah, so that was
let's see. I'm taking a look at the chat here. Insofar as even I'll enjoy it. Oh god, my other moderators here, D7 Samurai. Hello. I've been thinking of making like a roulette or a chat kind of thing, where I hit a button and it'll give me options to do every stream, right? One of the options could be make a new moderator and demod the one I have right now, right? Other options could be, banning people randomly and things like that. I think that'll give a lot of variety to the chat. We'll see what they think. I see that you sent the link.
So I posted it. It's just a PDF that's like it just I don't know if anybody knows what this says. It says what I did that summer.
Okay.
If anybody understands, you can explain it back to me.
That's fascinating. Email William if you have complete and thorough understanding of his summary there. That
right. It's like 2 superconducting RFQs and the Piave injector have been kept locked. Anyway, that's what I worked on that one summer. Yeah, so that was different. I mean, it was more just like with physics, you're always part of these like massive international projects, and you're like this tiny part of it. But the different with art, it was just about you. They're like, what are you interested in? What are you working on right now?
Okay.
So that was the biggest difference, I think.
But I do have a question. Isn't it the top level artists that actually get to do whatever the fuck they want? Like, isn't there a sort of artist that just have to still follow like directions? I think it's a sort of like way too general for me to say, because obviously there are artists in Disney or Pixar and they get to be creative, but there's a lot of constraints in place. So I'm asking because you are indie right now, right? So I want to know what happened between you being within I don't know, an organization with artists and then going indie, right? So I think we're at that part that everybody's the most interested in, I think.
I think the thing with the art, I mean, I was in like contemporary art, which I think is much more not about, you don't work with organization, right? It's a lot more like indie devs, like everybody's got their own thing. You're not, I mean, the difficulty there is more like trying to get recognized. It is actually quite similar to indie game development in a lot of ways. The biggest difference is the financial model. Right?
Okay.
Like instead of selling a game, a large number of copies of it, what you're doing is you're creating a limited number of goods, which are then sold for a very high premium.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And that actually, that's sort of the biggest difference, but everything else is not, right. You're still sort of, you don't have like a boss over you. You're making your own work, but you are subject to like what the market forces are.
Mm,
etc. Like what is
yeah.
trendy?
Yeah.
Does a gallery want to work with you? That's sort of like, does a publisher want to work with you? It's a lot
I
harder to
see.
be. The thing with being an artist is that it's a lot harder to be independent, right? Like
Uh-huh.
you can publish your own indie game, and that's actually like encouraged and really cool. But you sort of need the gallery relationship in the art world, because like otherwise you're like vanity
Yeah.
publishing,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
people are
okay.
like, you're not vetted, right?
Yeah.
Um,
This is I draw parallels here with music, especially back in the classical period where you had musicians like Mozart, who, although extremely talented, had a horrible relationships with the people that would publish his work or use his work, right? The dukes, or I'm not sure what kind of royalty, hierarchy they had there. But Mozart was talented, but he died particularly poor, just
yeah,
because of that. So I'm feeling it's the same way with artists. I guess you need to have a good relationship with these museums and galleries and things like that. So
yeah, it's definitely much more. You're much more dependent. I think in a lot of ways, the art world is still like very dependent on that old infrastructure of galleries and museums, and
yeah,
you know,
that's true. That's true. I didn't really consider that. Okay, so here's the big one. What made you go indie?
so it was never really a decision to like go indie. It was more like just to make games, and because like I guess I was already an artist, like I was already independent that way.
Yes,
Right. So I before
I
I
see.
started making games, I had worked briefly in advertising as well. So like
Okay,
I
okay.
did the art resident. I was trying to do the installation art, but that stuff didn't take off. Like I did the residency, and then that was over, and I went. I ended up working at an ad agency, Leo Burnett,
Mm-hmm.
in Chicago, where I made one ad. It's a very, very good ad. I'll show you guys.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's fantastic. It actually won a bunch of awards, but it's most noticeable. Most uh, I just posted the ad in the chat. It's mostly significant because it's the first feminine hygiene ad to ever have blood in it.
What? Wait, I just did a thumbs up with what you said, and I was just doing the thumbs up for a new follower. Not the. Never mind. Okay, bad timing there.
Yeah, I don't know how much people can appreciate the design, the significance of that ad, but like, or like
Yes,
if people even care, but that is a category that has a lot of taboo and is very, very difficult.
I
Because like,
see.
so advertising. So I worked in 7 months at Leo Burnett. For those of you that watch Mad Men, apparently, uh, Burnett says it's sort of based on the early days there. Like there was a copywriter, Draper Daniels, who is the one that came up with the Marlboro Man,
Hmm.
right? Which is like a huge, um, big campaign. So Burnett is a huge agency in Chicago, and this ad was actually a spec ad because I was just an intern in like
Hmm.
my job. So Burnett has like a lot of these big agencies, they'll have like hundreds of offices around the world. There's
Yeah.
Leo Burnett Toronto, Leo Burnett Venezuela, whatever, and each office only like keeps track of what's going on there. But I was at Burnett Global. Chicago is not a U.S. and global headquarters, and what happens is like, say in Leo Burnett Indonesia is like pitching a new telecom client, right? They'll
Okay.
email us and be like, "Hey, did another office like pitch pitch a telecom client? Is there like, do they have any? Can you send us their deck, like their presentation?" So
Okay.
I'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay, Leo Burnett Toronto just won Bell Canada client." So like I'll email Toronto, ask for their slides, and then send it to Indonesia. So like my job was just like this email person back and forth and like
Yeah.
downloading ads.
Okay.
And hey, yeah, so like Praetorian worked at Leo Burnett in Romania.
Did he?
So
Okay.
and the idea was like, I was an intern, and they're like, you can go meet with the different departments. There's account, which is like dealing with the client. strategy, which is the guys that do the market research, look at what trends are, you know. So like account would be like you go back and forth between McDonald's, and there's like McDonald's,
I can
do
see
this
that.
and tell the team, then you go back and tell McDonald's. Strategy was like, okay, you know, we notice people are like, they want to eat healthy, so McDonald's, you should, you know, cut down on the like high fat stuff, and like you should bring salad.
Yeah, I see. Yep.
Creative team is like, they make the ad that has the salad, right? They have like, they're like, come up with the ideas. Then production is the department. They don't make the videos. They find studios that make the videos, right? So they have production houses, which are usually outside. Every agency has a different specialty. At Leo Burnett, it's all about creative. Like Burnett is a big creative house, and so at the office, right? It's like creatives are king. So like even though I like the strategy guys because they're all like people interested in data and they're kind of like, you know, social scientists, but I was like they like wanted me to work on them, but I was like, man, creative. Plus I like really liked this girl at the office at the time, and I was like, man, if I were like an art director, then I can ask her out, but not as an intern.
I'll drink to that. Hold on. Anyway, yeah, go on.
So I like met with the creative department recruiter, and he's like, where's your book? And I was like, what? What's a book? And he's like, you know, your portfolio of fake ads. Like, we're not gonna let you make real ads before you make, you know, before we see what you can do.
That's fair.
And he's like, no, he told me to go to advertising portfolio school, which is like 2 years, you know, $60,000. And it's like, you just make fake ads every day for 2 years. And at the end, you have like a portfolio to send out to get a job. And I was like, I don't really want to do that because I just finished school and I don't want to go back. But what I would do is every night, and I didn't even know like Photoshop or Illustrator at the time. Like the way that ad was designed, I actually designed it on paper, the like slightly transparent paper. So I just like traced it over a bunch of times. But oh yeah, so D7 and Samurai went to portfolio school. Yeah, but I didn't actually want to be in advertising. I thought I wanted to be in film. Like I thought I would go in advertising, you know, become an art director, you know, we'd come up with commercials and we'd film commercials, and then like I'd become a film director. Actually that's not the right path.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because like advertising is actually like really hard to get into and really brutal. So like if you want to do film, you should just go into film. Like
directly.
Yeah, you don't need to like go through advertising and do that. But okay. So anyway, I would just go home and make fake ads and then email like every creative director at the office and get their feedback. And they would say stuff like, okay, don't make ads for Lamborghini, condoms, or beer or Nike, because those ads are like really easy to make, right? Like, it's like easy to make a Nike. I just got like Steph Curry dunking, and just do it. Like that's like a great ad, but you're not going to be working on those accounts as a junior. What you should work on as a junior is CPG, consumer packaged goods. So like deodorant, shampoo, like the stuff that's really the same.
Yes.
Like across brands, which is why they really need the advertising. And the hardest category is feminine hygiene. And Always, Procter & Gamble is a client of Burnett, and Always is one of the brands. And Always is like super conservative brand, right? Because it's not like Nike, it's not edgy. And I made an ad. So that ad was a spec ad. And I showed it to people. Someone was like, you should show it to the creative director of Always. And that she didn't really like it, but I didn't think twice about it. But then what happened was someone showed that ad to the chief creative officer of Leo Burnett Worldwide. And he really liked it. Right. And he was like, let's make this. This is the best thing that like Always has done. And but what happened, and I didn't realize this at the time, was I was his intern and everyone thought I went behind their back to like the top guy at the company.
Yes.
And so he liked it, but then I pissed off like everyone.
I have a similar story.
And above me. So it's like everyone.
Yes. Yes.
So
I know that all too well.
I was like 22 at the time, so I had no idea about like office politics, right? And also like they have these books that are like, it's all about the work, and which is like not true. It's actually all about office politics.
Yes.
But I ended up They didn't give me a job after 7 months, and then 2 days after I left, they sold that ad to the client. And yeah, like I didn't make any money from it. They took my spec ad. Like
Dang
it wasn't even.
I hate this intern story.
It wasn't
just
a sign.
Gets me so irate. Oh God.
Yeah, and they took my spec ad and sold it to the client, and it won like a bunch of awards. And I didn't even see it until like my friend told me like, hey, because I still have friends at the office, and they were like, yeah, dude, it's published. And then I remember like going to 7-Eleven and then finding it in a copy of Us Weekly magazine. But
did you like sell your soul? Like, did you have to like write a contract before going into the internship?
I mean, I didn't even read it, but it was like, I signed like a 50-page contract before I started.
Right? God, it must say on page 48, if you piss people off and you leave, we get to use all of your work for free.
It really was just like this. The recruiter was it kind of sucked because like I really liked my team and I had a fun time working there. But it was just like the recruiter, I don't know, just a lot of that stuff happened and like made me very bitter.
For sure.
Yeah. And it in a way, you can sort of see how it's like these institutions, that's a problem, right? Because so, for example, if you think about the recruiter, it's like, why did he not want to take a chance on me? And the thing is, I did not go to portfolio school, and the whole industry is designed so that they have advertising student awards, but you can only qualify the student awards if you're a student at an advertising school, right? So like, if I was coming in from outside, I could never win those awards. Mm-hmm. And it's like, as a recruiter, he's going to go to the portfolio school and hire students who have won awards and then get them to the agency. And the thing is, if they turn out to be a bad hire, he can be like, hey man, I did everything right by the book. Like, he went to this school, it's a great school, he had a great portfolio, he won these awards. Whereas if you took a chance on me and I turned out to be a bad hire, people are like, dude, why'd you hire this guy? Like, so it's like people trying to kind of save their own position at these large companies. Yeah.
Okay. So did you like start developing I'm not sure how you feel about institutions today, but after that, what happened back then, I'm sure you felt some kind of, I don't want to say like anger, but let's go with anger. And I don't know if that influenced some of the later decisions in your life.
Yeah, I think that was actually like a huge turning point for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, a big part of it was I now find it like very, very difficult to trust big companies. And it also was like, because what happened was, if they had at least given me a creative internship, and I was there for 7 months, like they just kept dragging my internship along. The average internship is 3 months. So like people came on after me and got hired full time while I was still an intern, right? And it's like, it wasn't even because the work wasn't good. Like if I never made an ad that got published, I would have been like, okay, whatever, I'm just like a bad art director. But it's like, no, that ad like went on to win awards.
Exactly, and that's what I meant. Yeah. That's why I said anger, because I think it's justified. And
but it just was like and also so like I had a hard time getting a job at another agency because I didn't have like a creative internship position to at least like apply with, and I ended up running out of money in Chicago and like moving back home and was like super depressed for 6 months. Like I was unemployed and really depressed for 6 months.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But it ended up in a way things worked out well, because in Toronto I got a job at a studio making science museum exhibits, and they were using open frameworks, and that was like my first time. So I ended up like kind of learning how to program because of this job I took. And even though I really hated it at first, because like, so Burnett, that's like this massive building in downtown Chicago, and it's got like a lobby, and there's, Friday afternoon drinks. Like it's a really sexy, it's a big fancy agency, right? So like it feels like a very sexy environment. And then this place in Toronto was like run by this couple, and it was like took an hour for me to get to. Yeah. And just like 4 people in the studio. And I was like, oh man, I could be like downtown in this high rise. but like, and the thing is, they didn't have a good unlike, so if you work at an agency, it's like these people do the concept, this person does the sound, this you do the programming, you do the art, right? Like it's all split up.
Yeah.
But at the studio, they were like, here's your project. And the project was to call it's called Shadow Rock. It was basically one exhibit at this museum that was opening up. You like have your shadow projected on a wall.
I see.
And you use that to make music.
Okay.
Cool. So like, hey Bart, yeah, I'm on all the streams. I've been seeing Bart on a few of them.
Oh, it's Bart. But, yeah, hey man.
But so what was really cool about that was they were like, I remember it was so funny. I can't like honestly, because I've been hiring programmers right now for my project. And you know, some of these are like really young guys. They're like 23.
Yeah.
You know, they come from DePaul, so they study game development. So they're actually better programmers than I am in some ways. They have more program knowledge. And I was like 23, 24 at the time. And I remember I had an interview with them, and the guy was just like, do you know what a reference? Do you know what a pointer is? And I was like, yeah, that's like the reference, but not the real thing. And he's like, okay, yeah, good enough. And I'm like I actually went back and thanked him because I was like, so they you know, I was there for 6 months and they were just like, yeah, they basically gave me the first 3 months to learn C++. Like like when I think about it, they like really took a big chance on me.
Yeah.
You know, to like let me learn. And then like the last 3 months, and I think programming is just one of those things where it's like, you got to do it every day to like,
yeah.
No, yeah. It's like if you keep like trying to learn and then don't do it for 2 months and then come back, you're always going to be stuck in that early stage. Right. But yeah. So, and they were just like, here's your project, you do everything. And I had to like, I was using open framework. So that was C++, and I had to do like, you know, image analysis. I forget what that's called. Computer image. You know, you get the image from the camera and you got to analyze stuff like that. And that's like where I first started learning about shaders.
Okay.
But but yeah, like after that experience, I felt really comfortable as a programmer. So that's always a very, very good.
So, and I hope we can get to talk about this on the next part of the stream, next half, programming specifically, because the way you learn
computer vision, yeah. That's CV. Yeah, OpenCV was the library. Oh, yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah. Oh, they do a lot of OpenCV projects for school now. And anyway, so the way you learned programming is so orthogonal from the programmers that I've known today, right? Because they go directly to programming school, if you want to see it that way. And I want to talk about that later, but go on with the story, because I think we're almost reaching to the interesting part, right?
Yeah, sure. So what happened was that project ended, the museum opened. They were lovely people, but there's like, the problem with the museum industry is like, and it's sort of very different from games too, because what happens is they get a contract and it's for years, you know?
Yeah.
It's like 3 years long, but you don't have museums opening all the time. And I totally understand, like now that I'm kind of running a small business, it's like, man, it's hard to keep people on. And they're just like, hey, man, we don't have any work for you. And I remember I was like looking around for jobs, like they had, you know, some finance companies had some like web developer positions, and I was living in Toronto at the time, but then Beck's Beer called me, and Beck's Beer. So in the UK for like 25 years, Beck's Beer, they got the green bottle. They're like a German, they're kind of like they're like Heineken, you know, cheap beer in a green bottle.
Yeah.
And they wanted to expand their reach in the US market. So if you're looking at cheap imported beer in a green bottle, Heineken is the dominant one. And they wanted to bring their artist label program to the US. And so they got this London agency, and they're like, okay, you know what? Let's, you know, we got a 6-pack. Let's pick 6 artists from the US, one in different city, US, Miami, Chicago, LA, New York. The problem is like 98% of the artist population is in New York or LA, right? So like that meant like Chicago was like very small market, and they got a London agency to choose the artists. And that agency, they they read It's Nice That. And they just remembered from like 3 years ago that It's Nice That had posted about a Chicago sculptor. They, and they were like, hey, we want you to be the Chicago artist. And I was living in, and they were like, yeah, we want you to represent Chicago. And I was like, I didn't tell them that I no longer lived there. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll go back for the summer, because they wanted to like film a commercial and all that. And I was like, you know what? This museum gig just ended. I remember like meeting with this one recruiter, and I had like the balloon twisting on my resume. And I remember she was like, let me give you a hint. Let me give you some tips about your resume. You should remove this balloon stuff. And I was like, you don't fucking understand me. I was like, that's like the best thing I've done. And
artist rant.
I just realized she like didn't get who I was. And I was like, I don't know what the market for large scale balloon installation is. But I'm gonna go ahead and just like, I don't know, nothing else seems to be working out, so I might as well just like dive into it. And I came back to Chicago with to do Bex. I was thinking I'd be here for 2 months and then go back and do something else. And kind of all these things just happened where I kept getting commissions, like as soon as one project ended, for another one, for another residency, and ended up for 12 months just doing balloon installation full time. And it was sort of this weird thing where I was like, I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was living in this apartment that was like $300 a month, but like I paid my expenses doing balloons. Right, and which I thought was amazing.
It is,
and really grateful for it. But so that was like a really wonderful year, and I felt like the installation work really. I finally figured out like what the work was about, and it had some like procedural generation stuff involved too. But the problem with that was by the end of it, I had very much become the balloon guy.
Yeah, James Whitman, balloon expert on the chat.
Yeah, I was it. And the problem with that is like, there were like. It had an advantage. It's like a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
In that, like, if you're applying for grants and applications, people look at hundreds of artists. And if you do stuff with balloons, you really stand out. Like, people remember you. But then that also means, like, when you get new work, you can't stray away from the balloons, right? So you're just going to, like, keep doing more balloons.
Oh, boy.
And also, like, the thing with balloon work is no one in the world is, like, a balloon connoisseur. So I knew the work I did 4 years ago and the work I was doing now was like huge difference. It was much more mature in the concept and the techniques.
Wait,
but the reaction?
They were balloon connoisseurs?
No, like nobody. I'm saying like nobody. There's like not that many people in the world that like.
I'm not.
If you see a balloon, you can't be like, that is great technique.
I'm not surprised, but
yeah.
That is quite unfortunate. We definitely need more balloon experts in that domain for sure.
Yeah, it's just not like a big medium, right? It's not like film or TV where like everybody has seen it and you know when it's like a bad show or something.
It's balloons all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
yeah.
What is the Silent Samurai saying? What about all those balloon ad collectors? What are you talking about, bro?
Yeah, I actually do have some prints. I don't know if anybody wants to buy that stuff, but yeah, from the old days. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. I'll show you guys something.
Go ahead and do that. Let's see. Professional balloonists use only the finest latex materials. I'm having a blast. One of the best interviews I've ever done. Fascinating stuff. Is there anybody I should ban while we wait for William? Somebody I should kick out? Miblo, do you volunteer? Do you volunteer for being kicked out the chat? I'm kidding. I love you guys. Live balloon show. Yes. Let's do this. Let's do the live balloon show.
I'm back. So like, people always used to ask what happened to the balloon installations, and these are kind of wrapped up right now. But this is like this thing I used to do like all the balloons from. So this thing was like this massive work, and then in the end, it was like placed in this little box. All the remains from. So I did that with every piece. It's called it's part of a series called Morning After. So, but yeah, like Andy James Adams says, "Show me your rubber, Willie." There was a lot of penis jokes, etc., etc.
It comes with the territory.
Comes with the territory, yeah. And like, I also used to go by Willie, and part of that was sort of like a Willy Wonka persona that like came with that, which also just like as I sort of like move beyond that, I with this work I wanted, which is now why I'm just like William. It was like.
Did you blow these balloons yourself, or did you have like a machine?
No, there's like a pump that you use.
Oh wow, that sounds professional.
Yeah, no, it was like a whole thing. I had like a whole system.
Yeah, I mean, I've never used pumps on my balloons. It's fantastic. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so how about this? I think we're done with the first half of the stream. We're gonna end it on this balloon conversation. And then on the next half, we're going to start talking about game design, your work with manifold guarding, which people used to call relativity. Yeah. And we'll talk about programming in the mix as well, and sort of tie in handmade dev with that. So really excited about this. Why don't you go ahead and mute yourself if you can? I'll call you out again in a bit.
Sure.
Just a quick 3 to 5 minute break while people get their beers or go to the bathroom and stuff like that. And I have to refill my chocolate wine bottle. So be right back. All right. Can you hear me, William?
Yes, I guess I'm back.
Yes, you are back. And welcome, those who are watching this right now. We are on the second part of this amazing interview with William, who is currently the indie game developer for Manifold Garden. And actually, I will get to that soon enough. But let's dive in. Actually, no. Let's talk about Manifold Garden first. Tell me about, if you can, to the extent that you want to, how the inspiration for Manifold Garden came. I'm sure there's a lot of entry points there, but just whichever path you want to take to explain one of your inspirations for the project.
Sure. I guess it actually ties in. It's a really easy transition from where we ended, previously. Basically, I was like frustrated with being a balloon artist. I mean, like it was sort of starting to get big, and I was like, okay, I can keep doing it, and when I'm 40, become like the balloon artist in the world, or maybe I can do something else, because that's never really like this thing I want to do. Right? It just sort of happened, and I ran with it for a while, and I was looking for other mediums. I was looking at glass blowing, metalwork, and a friend from Burnett, who used to work at Burnett, and he lived down the street from me. He was really big into indie games. And, I'd hang out, and he told me about like Journey. That was like a huge thing. I remember he like told me about Genova Chen. He showed me Journey and Indie Game, the movie. He was a backer on Kickstarter. Yeah. So he like invited me over to watch the movie. And I remember being like really inspired. I think especially the way Jonathan Blow talked about the work as like an artistic medium. I was like, hey man, this feels like a good medium I can do, because like I know how to program, and I didn't play games at the time, right? I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater on the N64 when I was 14, and that was it. So I didn't know anything about games, but I was seeing stuff like Journey, I was seeing stuff like Tale of Tales, and then hearing Jonathan Blow talk, and I was like, this actually looks like really interesting, and I downloaded Steam.
Don't we have somebody in the chat that worked on Journey?
Yeah, Chris Bell.
Chris Bell. Hey, thanks for being here. It's an honor, actually. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. So that was like, these games I saw that like felt like art. And then they are art, but they were. And what happened was I downloaded Steam, and it actually had a copy of Portal in it, because when Portal 2 was out, Valve gave away Portal 1, and I signed up for it and never got around to playing it until, then when I downloaded Steam, like Portal was in it. So that was actually like the first game I played in 10 years or so. But yeah, I just remember after seeing Indie Game, and I thought, you know what, I'll spend I think it takes 3 months to make a game, because I had like no idea, right? I was like, okay, Portal, there's like 20 levels.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, hey, did you get the? So I was like, you know what, Escher. I thought, I needed like an interesting mechanic, and I thought MC Escher's work would be kind of cool. And so I wanted to make a game based on MC Escher, and I actually like had that idea. Like a lot of people were like, hey man, did you know about Antichamber before? And I actually didn't know about Antichamber because I didn't follow games, but I knew about it after, because I started searching like MC Escher based games, and Antichamber was one that came up. Yeah. And I remember so this was in November 2012, and Antichamber was about to get released like 3 months later, and I was like, at first I was like super disappointed, because I was like, oh shit, somebody already did it.
Yeah.
But it didn't have like the wall walking mechanic, and it's very different. But yeah, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, I spent 3 months working on this prototype, and I was very lucky because I'm in Chicago, and we've got like a really great indie scene. So the guys that made Octodad, Young Horses, they're based in Chicago. So I met them at like a local meetup, and remember going to, it was funny because they like DePaul University has these meetups where like people show their games in work in progress.
Yeah.
And I remember everyone had their laptops, and this guy had a platformer, And I was like, you made this platformer? And he's like, yeah, we use his engine. And I was like, okay. And he's like, the engine does it. And I was like, so all you did was just draw the sprite. And like, I was like, you just drew the guy and put that in the engine. And then the engine did the jumping and the like rendering. And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I can do that. That sounds easy. And I remember making this game, and it had the wall. It actually was different. The world rotated, relativity. And I was like, this is the next portal. And I talked to the young horses. I was like, hey, can I come to your office and show you the game? And I was kind of expecting to like show up and have them be like, this is amazing. Let me work. And I was like, why are they've been working on this game for 2 years? Like, what the hell are they doing? And it ended up like there were a ton of problems with the game. There were just like all these issues, like lots of stuff was broken, and just it was like a very, very eye-opening experience. And I was super disappointed because I thought I had just wasted 3 months. But what happened was I had also got an art residency previously based on the balloon work to go to Shanghai for 6 months. And I was like, it was through Swatch. It was that's another story, but I was basically had this residency where I got to live in a hotel for free, and they covered my flight, and they even gave me breakfast. Ooh. So I was like, okay, you know what? This game doesn't work, but there were a few moments that were very interesting. Most of it was like awful, lots of problems, but there were a few things that I thought were very interesting. These few kind of like, I had like 10 puzzles, and just the last one. So the world rotated, right? And what happened was I had this mechanic that was like, you guys know Rush Hour, where you got like a bunch of cars. It's like that 2D board game, and you have like a bunch of cars in a parking lot, and you got to slide them around to get the red car out. Mm-hmm. I had a 3D version of it where you just had to slide a red block out. And there was one interesting moment, because if you put a box on a button, you couldn't rotate the world anymore, because as soon as you rotated, the box would fall off. Oh. Right? So you had to actually move these pieces to plan ahead and make a bridge that you could walk across. And I remember that was the only puzzle. And this is Kevin Zun. He is the creative director on Young Horses. So I had 10 puzzles, and every single puzzle, he'd walk into the room and be like, oh, I see. This is what I got to do. Like, he was not stumped until he got to the last one, when he was like, wait a minute. Oh, and it was like such a clear moment of like, I see. This is an interesting puzzle, because now it's got this like balance of stuff. If you want to do this, but then this screws it up. So, and I was like, okay, that is an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. I have 6 months of free time. What I'll do is I'll go back, I'll rewrite the game from scratch. So that's when it changed to, instead of the world rotating, you rotate it. And I was like, let's just see where it is at the end of 6 months. If it's not good, I'll scrap it, do something else. And if it's good, then we'll continue working on it. And I didn't realize this at the time, but so I was living there, and there were like 18 artists around me. None of them really played games, but it actually was such a great place, because I could just like get an artist to come in and play test. Like I didn't realize I was play testing. I was just like, hey, do you want to try these puzzles? So it ended up like, it's like kind of unintentionally, I was in this environment where I could get constant feedback and play tests. And I knew, so I had this like super early build, like it looked terrible. And I remember it was good because I had this artist from Austria, and I asked him to check out the build. I just had like 4 puzzles. And at the beginning, he's like, yes, I see how I must do. And then by the 4th puzzle, he stopped speaking English and was only in German. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, because this is a solid enough mechanic to have his like, get his mind. So that was sort of the beginning of it. And it's just, since then, it's just been like a lot of iteration and, meeting more people, and then learning about game development, and then like extending that deadline.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Was it that moment though where you saw the level of involvement from the player, right? Because when you saw them, their heads, clicking into this. Oh wow, I get it now. Yeah. Was it that joy of discovery that they had that made you want to continue the game?
Yeah. Like, so I knew the mechanic was interesting and had good puzzles, but that was like, so that was the floor didn't change, and like all those elements, like things now. The game looks a lot better, but a lot of the early visuals were due to them. People were like, I don't know when I'm close enough to pick up the box. And people are like, I don't know which wall I'm at. Like, why don't you color all the walls? And we tried coloring all the walls, but then like that was too much. So I just colored the floor. Right. So it's like, yeah, it wasn't, excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
Intentional at the time, but it ended up just like, I just happened to be in this environment where I could constantly get feedback. And also I think, I wasn't like worried about massive game architecture, right? So it was sort of very easy to write hacky code and just change stuff. So that was that. So I basically all the puzzles in the game I wrote during that 6 month period. Like I'm showing now the stuff with water. All that water that was done in that 6 months in 2013. And since then, it's just been all the level design and then making the systems work.
You say that, and I like that line of thought that you've had ever since the beginning of this game, because it's just almost to me pure design, and you're only using things like the engines or the programming for the engines as a way to achieve that design, right? I'm not sure. Do you consider yourself a programmer? I guess is my question, because we're gonna talk about programming soon enough.
Do I consider myself a programmer? No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very clear. Like. Yeah. I talked to David, who's been working on the project, and I remember we were taking before, David's in the Chicago scene, and we were taking the subway once, and he was just talking about this like this programming problem that sounded so boring to me. And it was just, I don't even remember what it was, but he was like so enthusiastic about it. And I was just like, dude, I do not care. Like, just get that thing working. And it's like I can do this stuff. I don't enjoy, my mind can work enough that I can like, I'll read a line of code, I'll read a script multiple times and eventually I'll understand it, but it's not,
it's not like a fluid, like, from the problem you want to solve to the algorithmic solution, like in a space where it's quick and fast.
I have had some moments in programming that are like really incredible. Like when I figured out how to get rid of the artifacts in the edge detection shader was great. But that was like one thing in 2 years, The rest of the time is just this like painful struggle for me. Like when I'm level designing, my mind is just like in this like really great zone, and I can like do it and forget about time.
Yes.
But with programming, I'm just like constantly fighting the urge not to go on Reddit or Twitter.
And and from my perspective, and let's go deep into game design and programming now. I'm a low-level systems programmer.
That sounds painful.
Junior level at Kennedy Space Center, and the problem space there it's extremely different from what you're trying to achieve, right? But I still find an interesting cross-cutting concern here, and it's with the engine, right? Now, not just the engine, but any tool you use to achieve your design, William. Because, for example, a good friend of mine said like he didn't know. This is when he's a game designer too, so he was like using GameMaker. And he didn't know how to destroy an instance, right? And even though that's what he wanted to do, he decided to just lay a trap instead, right? And like trap the monster or whatever instead of destroying that instance, right? So my question is, the limitations of his knowledge of that engine, or sometimes the limitations of the engine itself, encouraged him to change his design of the game. And I'm not sure if that has ever happened to you, if you've let the limitations of a tool influence the way you design something, or the lack of knowledge in some specific area, and if you're okay with that or not.
Some of it, it's, let's see. I would not say so much the limitation. So like that I don't think that was really the case early on, just because a lot of the stuff I was doing was very quite simple. Like now we are doing stuff where we're rendering so much, right? So if we have like a portal and it's not so much like what can the engine do? It's like, okay, this is what I would like. I want a portal where you can go between worlds.
Yes.
But I want to load it asynchronously. I don't want a loading scene. Okay, so now the problem is like that is like we're loading a ton of geometry because when we do the world duplicates, we basically have like a 3x3x3 matrix, right?
Yeah.
So we have I don't know what is that. It's a massive number. It's like 100 something instances. Okay, so one of them is that's like big enough, but when you want to load two of them, when you want to go between the worlds, you have to have both of them simultaneously. So that's a heavy load. So and that like just that's not I don't know if it's the engine. Yeah, I guess it's part of the engine. It's just like computing power. So one way to get around that is to have not have the portals be in the outside, right? So instead have the portal be inside a room so that you can like not be rendering all the instances and then have the player go inside another room and then like a little hallway so you can only load. So that's like
okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Now,
so, yeah.
Yeah, there is some where we are kind of there's a few things where we are the tech and the design are kind of like have to go hand in hand. It's like how can I design something that would work with the tech but still do what I want?
Yeah. So I was just wondering if you've ever come to a point where you say, fuck it, I'm gonna change the actual design so I can work with the engine. And it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yeah, I mean,
just find workarounds. You know?
Yeah. Some of it now is yeah, it's more like when it comes to the optimization stuff, we're just like, yeah, I don't think we can do it in this way, but
there's this other way that I can maybe achieve that even if it takes longer, or if I have to maybe spend less time here for a while. And okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and that's interesting. That brings on another point that I want to talk about. And again, from a low-level systems programmer's perspective, right? Engines were developed by low-level programmers, and many times they're systems programmers. And let me see if I can phrase this correctly. What they enable people to do, designers, for example, as yourself, is to achieve your product in a way that is, I guess, as streamlined as possible. And by streamlined, I mean from your ideas on your head, right, straight to the result in the less amount of steps that you can handle. That's what I think. But I'm going to show you a quick video. I hope the chat can see this. Let me see if I can double click it. This is a video that I'm sure a lot of people have seen. It came out like a couple days ago. It's a Legend of Zelda video in Unreal Engine 4. This guy, his name will be on the video. He's done this Ocarina of Temple remake scene, right? And I think it's fascinating. So it'll take maybe a few seconds for you to see it on the stream, Will, but I'm sure the other people will see it immediately. Okay, so I'm gonna double click here and change scenes, and there we go. They're showing the version of the Nintendo 64 of the Temple of Time, and soon enough you're gonna see the Unreal Engine version that this artist made.
Okay. Whoa.
Gonna play for at least a minute.
Wow.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see if
Although I think when you're when you're 14 and playing the N64 for the first time, that felt like this, you know?
I agree. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is exactly what I saw in my head when I was like 11 or something. So yeah, I'm gonna try and fast forward to maybe the Master Sword and then stop the video from there. I just want to give a quick show. All right, here you go. Now you're gonna see Link approaching the Master Sword very soon. All right. Oh my God, those particle effects on Navi. Jesus, they could have toned down on that. Anyway, all right, so you got a glimpse of that. And let me see if I can go back to the main scene here. Hey, there's Will. Okay, so fascinating. I loved it. And I downloaded it, though, and on my laptop. It didn't run very well because I didn't have enough requirements for it to run as smoothly as the video shows, but still, pretty cool stuff. somebody's asking for me to paste the link to that video. I'm gonna do it right now. Okay, Zelda. I didn't think people would ask for it. I should have probably figured that out. Zelda UE4, Ocarina of Time. Bam. And it should be like on the top first. Yeah, almost a million, well, 500,000 views in like 2 or 3 days. It's crazy. All right. Bam. There it is. Okay, let me see if I can see Will again. So I did some investigation, and this project, the size of this project is roughly a gigabyte in size, making it 30 times larger than the entire video game on the N64 cartridge. So I want people to think about that though. It's like 30 times larger than the entire game, just for this one simple scene of Ocarina of Time, the Temple of Time, with no menus, with no inventory, nothing except you moving around and maybe using your sword a little bit, right? And I'm not criticizing the artist here, by the way. I think his work is awesome. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the engine itself, right? So I'm not sure what to make of that, right? Because as a kid, I've always been interested in how you can, I guess, maximize the computer's potential by messing with the memory directly and just transforming the data in whatever way I need to achieve my goal with, right? And I needed a language that gave me complete control over the computer to achieve that. I did not want like a big brother language or tool telling me what's safe and what's not safe, right? Now, engines have allowed amazing games to be developed, but I feel, and I'm not sure how much in the programming space you're in, but I feel that many of the engines, I feel like they could allow people to have more control over some things, even if it makes it, I guess, a little bit more difficult to handle. Like, for example, there are some designers that eventually end up writing their own plugins, right? Or modifying the source code of the engine in their own way in order to achieve some high-end things that they can't do with what the engine provides, right? It's like, for example, Unreal Engine has Blueprints, which is like this visual programming system, and it works perfectly for some things, but not for others because you don't have that fine-tuned, level of control. Now, I want to know what you think of this because new game developers and new programmers are consistently and in an alarming rate, they're being told to just use tools and just use libraries, right? And I'm not sure if that should be taught across the whole spectrum. Like if you go to software engineering school, like I did, for example, they do not go into detail of like the memory architecture of computers. They don't go into detail of how the operating system is designed. They don't go, and if they do it very little, and they just give you like a set of algorithms, and they give you like a set of rules to follow, and then they tell you go ahead and use a library. And I think if you do that across the board, then you're gonna lose. And Casey Moratori's talked about this a lot. You're gonna lose the people who created these engines in the first place, right? And I wanted to hear your thoughts because do you think that the engines that you have today could be made better for you as a designer? Like, do you feel like you have to fight it along the way? Is it high friction, or has it actually been a pleasant experience for you? Because I'm talking from like a programmer's perspective because I'm seeing the code and I'm like, oh my God, you should allow people to do more stuff. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you've had a good time with these engines, right? And we're not on the same page here, right? So,
it's been the relationship with it has changed a lot. So before I actually made Manifold Garden at the time Relativity, the very first thing I tried to make when I downloaded Unity was Snake, and actually found it very, very difficult.
Okay.
Because I was imagining that the thing would have like a grid of pixels, and then all I had to do was like have an array and then turn it off, and I like could not figure out how to like draw one pixel because it's like in 3D, right? Like I didn't know about Unity 2D at the time, and I like felt super stupid. I was like, how come I can't make Snake? Like what the hell? and then it's like you want to make a first-person shooter, it's like super easy, or a bad one, right? Because that's all set. Initially, so when I was working at the Science Museum exhibit place, right, that was like C++, and there was a lot of just like shader stuff. Like, sometimes I'd have to like actually figure out, draw a line using OpenGL. So that was, I guess, low level compared to Unity, and I hated that stuff. And so when I started using Unity, it almost felt very refreshing at first, because I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about how to draw stuff. And it was very easy to prototype the game. I had really, I would say basically within the first year of trying to learn Unity, I had, these puzzles and was able to iterate very quickly and get stuff going. Our art style is dependent on the tech. It's like, if this is as far as we can render it, that's as far as we'll render it, right? Like, I'm not saying like this is the distance I like. I just kind of like want to go as far as I can. And we actually have kind of a hard time optimizing for that, because there's a lot of stuff beneath, like I don't really know beyond a certain level what's happening. If that makes sense. It's like when you want to like hone in on something, it gets very difficult. You only see past a certain point. So from a tech, there's just stuff that we don't know what's going on, and that's limiting where I am at. But then on the other hand, there's other stuff which I like. I wish there was more of an engine stuff. So Unity's pretty bare bones, and it's like, man, I wish there was like a default console. I used to have to, for like the first 2.5 years, every time I wanted to, check something in the build, I have to replay the entire game. Like, it was so stupid. And then I was, Brandon Chung, who made Quadrilateral Cowboy, 30 Flights of Liberty, he uses the Quake or like the Doom engine. And I was hanging out, and like that one comes with its own, with like an in-game console, like the Quake style thing where you hit tilde and then you can like enter code. And I saw him do that, and I was like, what is that thing you're doing? And he's like doing that to like skip levels and do no clip and turn stuff on and off. I was like, dude, that's amazing. You're just doing that in the build. And he's like, yeah, like the Doom engine has that. And I was like, God, I need that. And we've set up a console. I mean, it doesn't have autocomplete, which is still a pain, but it's like, and part of it too is also I just had no idea what practices were. That it's like,
and I understand. Okay, so that's you opened my eyes for a lot of stuff there, and I want to make sure I've been arguing with the chat while you talked. I sound like I am completely against libraries, or I am completely against tools, and that's not the point. The point is that the people who make these tools happen, they themselves are being taught or encouraged to use tools that they don't understand to build these tools, right? Tools to build tools. And that is sipping into the culture in a way that I'm seeing software become more bloated and slower and broken in a way that it doesn't have to be, right? Because again, they're thinking that we don't have to maybe re-examine things and push the envelope with new architecture and new hardware, right? And that's basically my concern. So that's why I was asking you about the engine use, because I'm not sure if the engines have reached a point where these developers that are no longer, I guess, as well practiced and well understood with the behind the scenes stuff, that it's begun affecting amazing designers like yourself, or not.
It's a weird thing, because I feel like I don't think I could have made this game without Unity. I mean,
and I love engines. Like, they have to exist. I just don't feel the potential is being realized anymore, or it's gonna get progressively maybe worse. And I'm objectively seeing that happen in some aspects. Like, there's no need, for example, for that Ocarina of Time video that I showed you to be a gigabyte. It doesn't have to be. There's a lot of settings, there's a lot of configuration that you can do to make that more streamlined and leaner. But given some of the decisions of the developers who are making the tools, it's just more bloated because of it. Because they don't want to, they want, again, to encourage you to not think about how to make solutions at least more optimized. So, and then you have people in the comments saying, oh my God, I want this game to be made with Nintendo, the entire set of games. So I'm like, wait, if this one scene costs you a gigabyte, then how are you going to use these tools from an amazing artist like this guy, right, to create an entire game? Do you need like 2 terabytes for your machine? No, like there is ways to make it better, and I don't understand like the disregard for not encouraging some programmers at least to maybe enjoy low-level programming and to maybe enjoy reinventing the wheel, right? Because that's what makes the the future engines to happen, I think, right? I'm not sure, that's why I've also liked these interviews with people just to sort of get different opinions, right? I've changed my mind on other stuff, so.
It's true. I do, like when I talk to Brendan, and because he's using his like the Doom 3 engine, I think it's open source, right? So, and he, when I talk to him, I'm almost envious of the amount of power he has to be able to really affect and go in and like, because Unity is sort of like a black box, so it's like it's kind of the thing you said about the people making the tools are making those tools with tools that they don't really understand themselves. And then I make tools based on their tools, based on those tools.
Yes.
And it is sort of, it does feel like I'm standing on ice. And there have been, I have, when I upgraded from 4.5 to 4.6, all the scenes didn't open and I had no idea there. And I've sort of had to build, I asked David, the programmer, we've built like these safety backdoors where it's like, because all my assets are in the engine, and if anything goes wrong, I could lose them all. Like I'm not building them in another 3D software, so like we need to make sure that I can export these out should something happen, so I don't have to.
Yeah. That's fascinating, and then I'm gonna ask you another question. Are you? So I know you've been an artist for a few years now, haven't you? Like an official.
Yeah. I guess a few years.
That's awesome. And so I still see you as an artist, even if you're like doing game designer thing.
Yeah, I'm an artist.
You are an artist at heart, and that's amazing. Are you? So once you finish this game, do you have hopes for it to? Because whenever I go into like making programs and things like that, I always think about how long they're gonna live.
Yeah.
Because code rot, or it can't last for 20 years because the engine that you used disappeared or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you ever find that a concern, or are you just like, it doesn't matter, like this is for the short term, or I believe it'll last for the long term?
No, it is a concern, and it is like, you think about books, Homer, and how they've just lasted thousands of years and people are still reading it. And it's like, the thing with games is it's also not just the tech, right? Sometimes it's like even just the design when you play old games, even when you get it running on the emulator, you're so not used to their control schemes. Like I was trying to play Hitman, like the early ones, and it was just like so frustrated with their design things that the tech isn't the only thing that gets obsolete, and then you're also just like not used to the visuals that look great. But it's like if a game came out that looked like an N64 game now, I think I just have a hard time playing it because you're so used to the latest. So it does bother me that it only has a certain lifespan. But then I don't really know what else to do about it.
That's perfectly understandable. I wanted to see your perspective on like as an end user of these of these beasts. That's pretty cool. I'm reading the chat, like some of them defending, I guess, some of the choices that people are making now for development. I'm not sure. It's just that, again, I grew up in this kind of low-level hardcore environment, and now working for like Kennedy Space Center, it's like I can't really see the argument for it. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm actually doing a programming project on Sundays outside of work, right? And I want to get like the community in and sort of get their opinions of how we can make this better, because I'm not sure if you've heard of Handmade Dev.
Yeah.
So Handmade Dev, the manifesto was written by this amazing person, Andrew Chronister. He's only like 18. He's going to college right now, computer engineering, and he himself is a programmer who, once he met Handmade Hero and once he met Casey Moratori, he was extremely excited because he was like, oh, programming can be in this way, like tinkering with the computer, tinkering with the platform, and messing with the memory myself. And he felt like a relief, and so has many other people, that they don't have to be using these abstractions, and I'm not going to say abstractions, using these methodologies like just use libraries and just use object-oriented programming, and don't try to reinvent anything, or don't try to re-examine your assumptions and things like that, right? So I want Handmade Dev to be like a space for other programmers that don't know that it can, other programmers that are, I guess, have an affinity to being low level, to not feel discouraged and to not feel criticized for doing the things the way they do it, right? Like I remember as a kid, I would like program. I was actually doing a spell checker recently. And it's like, a spell checker? What? Microsoft Word already has that. But it's fun, like hash tables and binary search, or just like ingesting your files and try to find the best algorithm with the less collisions for it. Like that kind of space, I need that fun. And it actually helps me a lot for my actual job, right? And I feel like there's a lot of programmers who no longer get to have that fun, no longer get to have that practice. And that's what, Handmade Dev is about, like a community for those people. And I wish that maybe 10 years from now, we can give you, for example, an engine that I believe can be infinitely better than the things that we have now. And that's sort of like an idealistic, naive way to say it, right? But I don't like the road we're going down right now. Anyway, enough. I always rant every Saturday. Gosh. Like I want I want the guest to talk, not me. God damn it.
I mean, hearing that rant though, it's like, it's very clear to me that you're a programmer and I'm not. You talk about hash tables like it's a fun thing to do, and I'm just like, I have absolutely no desire to like touch that thing.
Somebody in the chat is saying that was the same feeling I got from Handmade Hero and Handmade Dev. When I entered the community, before that, I was also the object-oriented guy. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel the same way. Oh, Distorted Net. Hey, man. This is like a Twitch staff person, administrator. Hey, man. I'm not getting drunk today because I'm talking to William. So otherwise, we will have a totally different conversation. We'll be talking about the rubber condoms. Balloons. So let's not go with that. Anyway, William, we only have about 15 minutes left, which makes me really sad.
Yes, me too. I'm gonna have a drink.
Yes, but you have opened my eyes to a lot of things, because I also regret not having had the experiences that you've had. Right, all I've done was like grow up programming and go directly to like from where I am to Kennedy Space Center, and that's it. Like that's all I've seen. Right. So hearing you talk about this, it's like, whoa. And I think that experience gives you much more leverage to be a more interesting artist than other people. Now, do you see yourself doing another game, or after you're done with Manifold Garden, what do you plan to do with your life, bro?
I don't have plans to make another game. It's just it has been really the most rewarding endeavor I've undertaken, and it's really been the best creative medium. But the thing is like I didn't make this game for a career in game development, and it was just like it was like an art project just in the form of a game, and games are so massive that I had to like not do anything else except work on it and learn everything. I am actually hoping, and a lot of it depends on how well Manifold Garden does, just from a financial standpoint. But I am really hoping to go to culinary school.
What? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
that's to me like the embodiment of an artist. Like you don't constrain yourself to a single platform. or mediums?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's sort of approaching it from a design standpoint. Like, to me, what's been so fascinating and what's been so rewarding working in games is, I watch Indie Game the movie, right? And hearing John talk was like a huge inspiration, and like, Journey too, right? And it's like now I know Chris Bell, and I've talked to John. Like, I went to San Francisco and was able to like talk to him about these like tiny details about the game design, and I'm like, well, should I do this or that? And John's like, well, you can do this and that, and like same thing with Chris. You get into these like incredibly fascinating discussions.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking like, and that's incredibly amazing to me. And I'm just thinking like, who is the Jonathan Blow of the culinary world? Like, can you imagine like meeting like the Chris Bell of the culinary world, and he's just like talking about like cake and how you can't do it that way, and he's like, yeah, the mainstream cake, it's like everybody's eating this garbage, and if you just think about food as a creative process, what's appealing to me about it is that it's not, you don't spend like 4 years making one dish, right?
Right.
Right. It's more like a continual process of improvement.
Yeah.
You could, yeah. But it's more about like you make the same thing over and over again and like refine the that process and maybe, but I mean, I'm not, I haven't like. I don't know if I'm going yet, right? It depends on if the game, hopefully the game does well and I can go, but I do think that would be such a fascinating venture just to like rediscover that world too and like learn how to design with food, right? I mean, if you just think about, right, I took that same process in advertising, and that all I did, people were like, how do I like, I mean, I guess Manifold Garden is pretty cool, right? But all I did with the game was I applied the same stuff I did when I was in advertising on getting at that ad, right? All I did was I made a bunch of fake ads and I asked everybody at the agency for feedback. And like, that's all I did with Manifold Garden was I talked to Alexander Bruce, I talked to Jonathan Blow, I talked to Chris Bell, I talked to Alexander Martin. Like, I emailed every single person who's made a first-person puzzle game. And I was like, can you play this and let me know what you think? And then you take their feedback and you just iterate and design, and like that's where the game is at now. So it's like all you do, you just abstract that process, right? And you just like make a dish and you find the best people in the world doing culinary work and just like, how can I make this better, right? Like, what is it missing? And I kind of want to do that again with like different mediums. I think that'd be really fascinating.
Oh, I mean, I'm hoping this is like a cliche thing to say, but I'm hoping you write a book after you are done with your ventures.
I would love to. I'm gonna use a pen name though. I feel the book is very personal.
I guess it is, but like applying so many techniques to designing on different mediums, maybe it can give you like a sense of understanding like the underlying principles that they share, if at all. Right, and you can talk about that, and that'd be amazing. Especially me, like as a programmer, like as a kid, I always dreamt of like being the next Pokemon Yellow programmer, right? But just like to allow somebody like you to use whatever I programmed to your advantage. Like that's what I love to do, and I guess that's why I get I get really heated up when I don't see tools to their full potential. Right, because I'm so hardcore to the metal that I feel like I that clouds my judgment too. Right, because I know there's a space for everything. I just feel that some directions can be moved into something that's a little bit more appropriate. And that's what Handmade is trying to do. So I try to maybe find a better direction for development of tools and programs and things like that. Right, like I definitely feel that programs can be a lot better for end users like yourself. So maybe I'm not sure I can write a program that helps you cook food, but I'll think of something. Like if you're going to culinary arts, I'll try to make a program for you that will shock you and make you want to use it every day.
I kind of want to, I'm like, if I do go to, I would like to go in Paris. I just kind of like the idea of like being like going to culinary school in Paris, but But if I do go, and anybody here in the chat, 62 of you, if anybody comes, I will make you a meal. That is a promise.
Oh my God!
If I do go.
Me first.
So that is to say, all of you should buy the game.
That's awesome, bro. Would you? Oh, I was speaking about Game Boys before. Like a few final questions before I have the chat ask you questions. Chat, we have 10 minutes, so I'm gonna ask a question to Brett real quick. I'm sorry, I said Brett. I mean William. Brett's the guy I had before. So if you have any questions for him, please put him on the chat now. Just tag his name at William, sure, and ask the question. Oh, new follower, thanks. Anyway, my question for you is: if you were born, let's say 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, and the only platforms for game development was Game Boys and PlayStation 1s and things like that, do you think you might have seen yourself making a game for Relativity, or do you think it's only now in this environment that you can actually make it happen?
Yeah, I don't think I would have done it back then. I mean, right? I think you would have had to be at a company. Yeah, I think I probably would have gone into film at the time, right? I think just that seemed like. Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Another follower, hey.
Yeah, like I feel like I would have gone into that medium that allowed for much more like individual, like, right? I mean, if it's like 10 years ago, that's like
that would have been almost impossible,
right? That's like the like American indie scene, and I feel like I would have seen Clark's. You know, Kevin Smith made Clark's for like $20,000 in like the shop he worked in. I'd have been like, dude, what the hell? I can make a movie, right? Whereas I feel like games, they would have seen these massive things. Yeah,
that's true. Do you? I mean, this is already a question, but I want to ask you real quick. Actually, no. Let's give chat priority. So Tweebs is asking: has a release date been announced for the game?
No, not yet.
Okay. I thought I told people it was going to be this year. I'm so sorry.
I'm aiming for this year. Yeah. I've said 2016.
Okay. All right.
I got scared. I just haven't put an exact date.
Okay. I'm sure it's Q1. Okay. No.
Actually, it just came out yesterday.
Right, stop the stream.
I wanted to beat the witness.
I'm not gonna have a life when The Witness comes out. Just throwing that out there. I'm not gonna stream. I'm not gonna go to work. Taking annual leave. Anyway, let's see. Are there any other questions? We are almost out of time. But let me just say real quick, William, thank you for being here, by the way. Like, this was one of the best conversations I've had in a long time. So, really fun. It's been a real pleasure for me to kind of share this stuff, and also the chat's been great too. Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I'm looking at my notes here to see if I had anything else to discuss here. Never mind. Another question. When do you think Manifold Garden will be released? How much will it cost? Never mind. I will buy regardless of the price. He's just okay. All right. That's awesome. Now I missed my question. What was I gonna say? It had to do with platforms. So going back to the game, which I actually have linked your website to the game below on the Twitch window, manifold.garden. What made you? It was previously called Relativity.
Yeah.
So when did you change the title? Was it recently? I think it was about a couple months ago.
I changed it about 6 months ago. Like September.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. I mean, that's when I announced it, but I had started thinking about it in like March. Yeah, so almost a year ago, I had been thinking about the name change.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And Brett Hudson's asking. You can read the question if you want.
Yeah, sorry. The question? Were you asking why did I change the name, or?
Let's not answer that right now.
Okay.
I'm trying to give priority to the chat here, so I don't sound like a draconian streamer.
I guess Suave.
Oh,
Suave Zombie.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. On the subject of trade schools, like culinary, we've seen bootcamp trade-like programs for things like web dev that don't seem to be in the spirit of HMD. Why don't we see low-level coding programs? I don't know HMD that well, but I think it's just because that's not stuff that you can teach in like 3 days, right? Like to understand shader programming is
a monumental. It can be a monumental task.
Yeah, I think I've never done those bootcamp trade like web dev, but I'm guessing they're just like download Ruby on Rails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's like a there's no like learn in 3 day secret for a program.
Yeah, and Handmade Dev hasn't been released yet. Part of this is raising public awareness, but it's been in development for a while now. It's been backed by Handmade Hero. Anyway, I think there's another question by Brett Hudson.
Has the fact that the Witness launched for $40 influenced my estimate for how much I want to price it? No. Yeah, because the Witness is a different. I am not Jonathan Blow, right? So I don't. I'm not in the same position. I do have a price in mind, but it's not influenced by the Witness.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, sorry. His question was for you. Swap Zombies.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, Swap Zombie. It's okay. So remember the conversation I was having with William earlier about institutions and how that's really difficult to maybe do things that are innovative in that space, especially when it comes to education, right? That's really hard to get people to program in the way that I want. So that's why Handmade Dev exists. It's going to be a nonprofit, and it's going to be a community of people hosting their own programming projects there that tries to be low level. It doesn't have to be, but it at least understands the tools that you're using and the cost of those tools, as opposed to just blindly, using them. And each project is going to have a forum and blog posts, and people can go between projects and engage with them, right? And you can learn maybe that way. Maybe you can start your own project. Even if you don't know much about programming, you can start your own project and have the experts in that community jump in and help you during that development. Something like that. It's still in development, so it's not, I don't want to pin down anything right now. Let's see. Any other questions? I think we only have 4 minutes left. Since I don't see any other questions, I can continue harassing William. So, do you work? Do you work like on your own? Well, you're indie, so. But I was gonna ask more like, do you work from a house? Do you work from an office space? How's your day-to-day look like?
I work from my living room, and I really enjoy it.
Nice.
Yeah. I can't imagine. There's like a co-working space in Chicago, but I just like, I've got this like sit-stand desk and 3 monitors, and it's just really, the trick working from home is you want to put on pants. Like people are like, they just work in their underwear or like in their pajamas, and it's like, no, man, you gotta have that like work-life separation, and putting on jeans is like, that's a big thing. Yeah.
Okay. Thankfully, if you're sick though, then you're sick and you're there, and you don't have to like call or go anywhere. Anyway, ex Mr. Phil, how did you get publicity for the game? Well, he's an amazing artist. What's wrong with you? I'm kidding.
Yeah.
If you want to answer it, if not, there's another one coming up.
So publicity. I mean, early on I was going to shows. I feel like now, I think the game has gotten publicity. I feel like it's still, there's always more, right? But I think the thing for me is, I don't have $1 million budget, right? So I can't do the Bethesda thing of like waiting until a month before launch and like buying out, the things on top of taxis, whatever that's called, right? Like I can't do that. So I think a big thing that I've been doing, which I think has worked out well, is just like making it a really open, transparent design process. I've got the development log. I share a lot of images on Twitter and on streaming. I think all that's been very helpful. So it's more this like grassroots way of building a community, and getting people excited about the game.
Yeah,
that's worked out well. It seems like. So the other question, and I'm just gonna keep doing that. That's basically my plan. Razoilo, how did you feel meeting people like Chris Bell and John Blow? I met where did I meet Chris? I met Chris at practice, I think. Chris is cool. John was a little more. I actually met them both at the same event. No, I think I met Chris earlier at IndieCade, or forget where I met Chris. I met him definitely at practice, but John was. I remember I went to practice, that's like a conference in New York, and John was speaking, and I really wanted to meet him. And they also had this like open problem session where you can go up and have 5 minutes to present a problem and have people talk about it. And just the funniest thing with Jonathan was like he gave his talk and then just like left. And I was like, oh man, I didn't get a chance to talk to him. And then I was later they had like a party. And he came in and I thought everybody would be like swarming around him. And I just remember I saw him like go up the stairs and then I saw him come down. And then he's looking at his phone, and I was like, okay, he's like, there's no one talking to him. So I just like went up and said hi, and we ended up talking for like 30 minutes, and he was like actually really, really nice to talk to.
Nice.
And I remember that the next day, and then he left, and then the next day he like sent me an email. And was like, hey man, where can I get a build of this game? And I think the really great thing about Jonathan, and I talked to him and I was like, do you ever think about wanting to make another medium, like me, like don't you just want to make a film or a book? And he said no, he just want to make games. And that actually like I gained a lot of respect for him because he's really like an apologist for games, right? Like he really believes in the medium. And like when I send him a build, even though it's like full of bugs, he'll play through the end and then write a ton of feedback. I can barely like get through an hour of finished games. So I'm going to answer a few more questions. You can stop me with the time.
No, we can go over for a few minutes. Yeah.
DR Jeets talks about the callback to advertising portfolio school. Do you think creative education, ad school, music school, game design has a significant impact on students to justify their existence? I don't know. I think a lot of that comes down to like personal motivation, right? Because, I remember in advertising, one guy, when I was working there, I learned a lot. I had a designer who was a mentor, and he told me, he's like, all education is self-education in the end, right? You can go to school, and if you're not actually motivated, just sitting in class isn't going to help. And I think that sort of goes the other way, where it's like, I felt I got the same education in a lot of ways, perhaps more useful than portfolio school, because I was just like at the company. Like you can just ask people and get feedback from them, and you end up. I think it's in a lot of ways more real because you're already there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying those schools are bad. I think there's really talented people that come out of there, but for me, I personally just think like if you can just be there, like no matter where you are, you can just. I think I prefer the workplace because that's like you're just doing real work, but you can also just show up to work and not try to like learn more, and then you also won't expand. But if you just ask people for help and ask how you can improve your code, I think that's that stuff. Snow State, what was the inspiration for Manifold Garden art style? Basically like architectural renderings, and trying to be minimalist. It wasn't so much Antichamber. Like in a way, Antichamber art style came from like, I think Alex Bruce wanted something very different. I mean, we sort of arrived at like a very similar thing, but for me it was like more because I wanted like a hand-drawn aesthetic. A few other questions. Anything interesting to say about my relationship with Indie Fund? Not particularly. I mean, they're fantastic. They're funding the game. They're not like looking over my shoulder. The terms are very generous. I'm very honored to be in it. They funded Antichamber and Fract, and certainly Jonathan Blow is part of that. And Aaron Isaacson. They every time I have like business questions or stuff, I run it by them, and they're always incredibly helpful. Aaron Isaacson I don't know if people know him. He's one of the partners, but he knows his stuff. He's got like a really good sense of being a sustaining indie like game developer. The stuff with contracts, he's like, you got to think about this and that and this and that, and so yeah, they're great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think we have one last question.
Is that Razoilo's question?
Razoilo's question. Yeah, we'll end it with that one.
Yeah, watching my streams. So basically every Friday I play a work in progress game and I talk to an indie.
Oh, those are your game design critiques, right? I do like watching those. Yeah.
They have been very, very helpful because the thing is, like, you don't often get like a super in-depth conversation. That happens like at shows, but there's so many people, and even at GDC, you can sit down with an hour, and sometimes that's good. But like, especially on the show floors, people are they're walking around, right? Like, you can do that. I mean, I've done it with, I remember Chris. Chris has the funny story where he met me. And he was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" but like Chris, like earlier this week, we had like a 3.5 hour conversation that was just like super in depth about the game, and that's like a very rare thing. And those are like super helpful. And what I kind of wanted to do was sort of get an insight into other developers doing that, and you don't see that very often. I really like conversations between designers. And so that's been very. I don't know if it's helped me so much in the design of my game. It's just been very eye-opening to be like, oh, this is how you approach it. It's like, wow, it's so different than my way of doing things. And then you find also with every game, there's so much thought that goes into all the tiny little things, and it's like.
It's awesome. I think I lost Mr. William, which is kind of bad. We are gonna end the stream though, but that's the worst way to end an interview. Just losing the person. Let me see if it's on the chat. Try and join in again. I think we lost you. Mic drop. Yeah. I mean, can you get back?
Okay, there we go. I think
Hooray! All right. You're back.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was just talking about the indie stream. I basically was saying it's been a very positive experience for me. Just like getting to talk about games design, and I love talking about game design. That's like one of my favorite things to do.
Yes.
And it's like, why do you make this jump that high? And they're like, oh, it's because of this. And
yes.
It's such an incredible design medium because it's like it can be so big.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like designing an entire city, and you're like, how fast should the cars go? To like.
Yes.
I don't know. It's such a, and it's so, there's no right answer, right? It's just so messy. It's so fascinating. And just being able to see people's insight has been very rewarding.
I love their insight more than anything, especially when they start explaining, oh, I made these gameplay mechanics, and collectively they're trying to communicate this message, even if I'm not saying anything about it. And that's like, what? And obviously that's what people say, what? But once you start playing it, you do understand. And it's extremely difficult to sort of explain it back. But obviously,
and it's like so many fields, right? There's like psychology and architecture and art, and it's all combined in this like thing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, and I'll always appreciate that, and I appreciate your presence here. And if you can, maybe stick around Google Hangouts real quick. I'm gonna end the chat here, end the stream. But guys, thank you so much for being here. Let me talk real quick about who my next guest is going to be. Saturday, January 30th. I think you're gonna enjoy who this guest is gonna be. And I'm not sure But some people have been waiting for this guy to show up, not for a conversation, but more about a showdown.
Casey Muratori.
Guys, thank you. I will see you tomorrow if you want to see me programming. If not, until next Saturday for the greatest debate that you will ever see. Goodbye, William!